Yesterday, we simplified rational expressions, and I gave you 3 steps. Factor, cancel out common factors, and write your answer. Well, we're going to do those same steps today when we multiply rational and expressions and divide rational expressions. We're going to begin with our first 3 steps. We have to factor. Then we will divide out or cancel common factors, and then third, write your answer in factored form. So I'm going to begin by factoring. I see my x squared here on the bottom, so I've got to think about what to do. What multiplies to give me negative 30 and adds up to negative 7? Well, I think about everything that multiplies to give me 30, but one of them will have to be negative. Since my answer here is negative, in my box, what it has to add to, my larger number is negative, so that would be negative 10 and positive 3. So to factor x squared minus 7x minus 30, I'm going to rewrite my negative 7x as x squared minus 10x plus 3x minus 30. And then I'm going to factor by grouping. My first two, I will take out an x, and I get x minus 10. My last two, I'm going to take out a 3 because 3 goes into both of those. And I get x minus 10. And then I look, my parentheses are the same. I call that a hallelujah because it means I have done my problem correctly and I don't have to redo it. So now my problem is factored. So I'm going to take that and write it up here underneath my problem. Now if you'll notice, I have another one with an x squared in it, and I must cancel that as well. This one multiplies to give me a positive 30, but adds up to negative 13. Positive 30, but adds up to a negative 13. If it adds to a negative, then they either both have to be negative or one's negative and one's positive. Well, since this is positive, they must both be negative. And again, I will use negative 10 and negative 3. So, x squared minus 13x plus 30, I'm going to rewrite using my 2 factors here as x squared minus 10x minus 3x plus 30. Slide up a little bit. So I'm looking at the first two and find a common factor, which would be x. And I'm going to look at the last two, and I see that 3 goes into both of those. But since this is a negative 10, I'm thinking this. If I multiply it, I get negative 3 and negative 10. So I can take out the negative 3 as a common factor. Again, I get the same parenthesis. Hallelujah. Makes my problem a little easier when I do it correctly. So then I rewrite my factors. Now we have been factoring for a long time. This should not be new to you. So I'm going to take these 2 factors and write it up here. X minus 10, x minus 3. Now where I factored this one, I'm going to draw a little line through it so I don't use it, and I'm going to draw a line through this one since I've used them both. Now I need to find common factors. Common factors that I can cancel out. I can divide out of both of them because they are the same. Well, I see x minus 10 in both of them. That can go. Well, now these aren't in parentheses, but I can put them in parentheses. And remember, when we cancel, we need to cancel an entire parenthesis. So I'm going to cancel out that. So all I have left on top is my x minus 3, and all I have left on bottom is x plus 3. So I'm going to write that, and that is my answer. I factored, I divided out the common factors, or I canceled the common factors, and I wrote my answer. Let's do another. Okay. Well, I see this as a parenthesis there. I like that. I can't do anything to them as far as factoring. This up here, I look at that and I see no n squared, but I see a 20 and a 12. I need a common factor for 20 and 12. And I believe 4 will go into both of those. So I'm going to take out a 4. 4 goes into 20 5 times. And 4 goes into 12 3 times. And I have factored that. So I'm going to draw my line through that one so I know it's done. I look at this problem. It looks a little backwards to me, so I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to turn it around and put my n squared first. Now it's beginning to look a little bit like this one, except my signs are backwards and it's a little big. Well, I need to see that they both have an n in it. So I'm going to take out an n. And a 0 on both tells me I'm going to take out a 10. But since this one's negative, I'm going to take out a negative 10. Negative 10 into negative 50 goes 5 times. If I take out one of my n from n squared, I have an n left. Negative 10 into positive 30 goes negative 3. And I take out the n, and that's factored. I have now factored my denominator here on the left. I'm going to draw a line through that. Now I need to find common factors and cancel them out. Well, I look, I see 5n minus 3 and 5n minus 3. I see n plus 10 and n plus 10. Remember that when you cancel, you have to cancel one thing from the top and one thing from the bottom. That is a must. You must cancel one from the top and one from the bottom. So that leaves me on top of 4, and it leaves me on bottom negative 10n. Now that looks pretty good, except I noticed something about 4 and negative 10. 4 and negative 10 are both even, which tells me that 2 will go into both of them. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 goes into negative 10 negative 5 times. So my answer will reduce again to 2 over negative 5n. Now this is a correct answer. There's my answer. But I do want you to be aware that this negative sign can be written out front as such. It could also be written on top. All three, oops, sorry, slide it up. All three of these answers would be correct. So we've multiplied two problems. There was the first one we multiplied. We factored, we divided out or canceled common factors, and we wrote our answer. Again, we multiplied, so we factored our parts, canceled out common factors, wrote our answer, and then realized we could reduce it yet again. Now let's look at a division problem. Well, division is just a little bit different because we don't divide fractions. We multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to keep my first term, 7x squared divided by 7. Now I'm going to change it to multiplication, and I'm going to flip this second one over. We always flip the second one. Okay, always flip the second one. So this one's going to be 7x plus 14 over 2x. Now I need to factor. Factor. Well, what goes into both 7 and 14? Well, 7 does. And that leaves me x plus 2. So that's factored. Well, I need a common factor from the top and the bottom. I'm going to rewrite this 7x squared as 7 times x, just to remind you that all of those are being multiplied. And 2x down here is 2 times x. So I need things that multiply to cancel them. So I've got 2 7s up here on top and 1 7 on bottom. When I have that, that means I can cancel 1 from the top with 1 from the bottom. And to be perfectly honest with you, it does not matter which 7 on top you choose, but you must choose one of them. I'm going to choose this one, and now I'm going to cancel an x. That leaves me with 7x, parenthesis, x plus 2 on top, and my 2 on bottom. This is in factored form, and I am finished. So, to recap, in division, you flip the second one, and then you still do the exact same process. All right, let's do one more division problem before you have 3, 4, 5 problems to work on your own. So I look at my problem here, and first off, I see that it is division, so I need to rewrite it. So I will write n plus 5 divided by n squared minus 2n minus 35. Since that's an n squared, I am going to need to factor that. Times, now remember, we always flip the second one. Flip the second. When it's division, you must flip the second one. So n minus 6 on top and a 1 on the bottom. Now I'm looking at my n squared. It needs to multiply to give me negative 35. And add up to negative 2. So I need two numbers that multiply to give me negative 35 and will add up to negative 2. As I think through this, it tells me that my larger number must be negative. So I'm thinking negative 7 and positive 5. So I have n squared minus 7n plus 5n minus 35. First two and last two. They both have an n, so I'll factor out my n. And I'm left with n minus 7. 35 and 5. Well, 5 goes into both of those. And I have n minus 7. Again, my parentheses the same. Hallelujah. I'm going to pull that parenthesis out. And the other is left for this, what's left here and here. It goes in my second parenthesis. So here's the factored form. I'm going to take it and write it underneath my problem here. N minus 7 and n plus 5. Slide back up. I took my factored and I wrote it underneath what I needed factoring, and I'm going to draw a little light line through it. Now I need to cancel one thing from the top with one thing from the bottom. How about the n plus 5 and n plus 5? Well, so now what does that leave on top? It leaves me my n minus 6. Now on bottom I have n minus 7 left and a 1. Well, 1 times anything is just that number, so this is n minus 7. And there is my answer. Remember, you have 3 steps for solving these problems. Your 3 steps is to factor, divide out your common factors or cancel, and then write your answer in factored form. Now, you have 5 problems to work on. And I will come by and help you as you need, but this is multiplying and dividing rational expressions.